if they die, they die. Leader Fan Radio Network.
Excuse me?
And KFAN.com. 1 minute and 50 seconds past 3 o'clock. That's Central Standard Time. Welcome back. It is a Thursday production of the afternoon Aardvark. We go with that. Some days we go with the Beast. What are some of the others we've tried out? The Aardvark, the Beast. There seemed like there was at least one other one we played with.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think Afternoon Aardvark might be my new favorite. We'll see how long that lasts. It's customarily called the Bumper to Bumper program. My name is Dan Barreiro. I host it. Guardsy produces the show. And we're delighted that you are along for the ride, which I think's the distance today, although I was told by Chad Abbott we're out at 6 tomorrow for Golden Gopher.
That's true.
Men's hockey. Is that correct?
Big series against Michigan State.
Big showdown series.
Yes, rematch series from the series here in December. So that's tomorrow. Tonight, we got to go the distance.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So 6:30 tonight, although I thought we were going to go the distance yesterday and turn out to be 6:15. Did you know that?
I did, yeah.
Oh, you reminded me of it? Okay.
I think so.
I don't even remember if you did. Blakemore did after you left. But in any case, it's a Power Pack broadcast today. We do get another week of Sean Salisbury. He has confirmed to me that he'll be available at 3:30 to talk professional football. In addition, the inbox will be open at 4:30. Email Guardsy for submissions, jg@kfan.com. I did get a number of requests, by the way, from our southern listeners. Maybe transplants, Minnesotan originally, and, folks move all over the country. That they were hoping for an honorary Snownami naming.
Oh. Because
of the significant snowfall received in parts of the South. I don't know what the official number was in New Orleans, but I know there were parts of Louisiana that officially got like 7 or 8 inches of snow.
8, yeah, I saw 8 this morning.
So
previous high was like 3 inches in the last 50 years.
Well, here's what's funny about that, because, in fact, we can talk to Sean Salisbury about this at 3:30 because he's Houston-based or that area. Do you know what the all-time record snowfall is for Houston, Texas? And I think they got an inch or two this time, I believe.
Okay.
The all-time record snowfall for Houston, Texas, I believe took place in 1895. 22 inches of snow. Explain that one.
If you ever go to Houston, got to walk right, got to keep your hands deep in your pocket and your gun belt tight.
That must have been a hell of a clipper. I mean, there must have been, would that be, what's the term? What's the bomb term?
Bomb cyclone?
Bomb cyclone?
Yeah.
Could that be bomb cyclone related? Could that be Calcutta Clipper related? What causes, in Houston, Texas, 20 inches of snow? What are the unusual conditions? Because it's never happened since.
Right.
Because even this is not even close to that. Because a lot of people assume, well, this got to be like, this is it, man. It's over. There's never been a snowfall like this in Houston. And I read it, so I believe it must be true.
That's like 2/3 of the Halloween blizzard, right?
Yeah, pretty
Basically.
much. Yeah, you're right.
If we're kind of doing the math right. Do you think they still talk about it down there? Like we talk about the Halloween blizzard?
Well, you'd have to. Well, probably not many people left from.
No, but it gets passed down.
Yeah.
Will our great-great-grandchildren be talking about the Halloween blizzard?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not even sure that many people talk about it anymore. You do. I do. I don't think the kids do.
Well, the kids
they weren't there, but I don't. In terms of being passed along, I think they're bored with it.
I think it might be hard for them to miss, though, because the old people like us talk about it so much.
That's true.
Yeah, Dad, we get it. The Halloween blizzard. Yeah. And you still went trick-or-treating. We understand.
Still found a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If they die, they die. That sounds pretty final and pretty severe, does it not?
Yeah, and a little insensitive.
And extremely insensitive. But if we're cutting to the chase and we're being honest, is it possible that deep down, although they would never admit to it, that's what the powers that be in the National Football League believe? I mean, we keep hearing that it's now inevitable that this schedule will be increased another game to 18. And one of the headlines I saw was that part of the reason the NFL thinks they can do this is that the NFLPA is described as being in slightly disarray right now. It's another question I should have asked Seifert the other day. I don't know what disarray means. Do they have a leadership vacuum? Are they looking for new leadership? I don't know. But let's be clear about this. I'm not saying that going from 17 to 18 means a bunch of people are going to die. But you do start asking yourself, and look, I love it as much as the next. I'll watch the 18th game. We all will. But you do wonder at what point you go, are we afraid of hurting anybody? Maybe not killing them, but at least significantly hurting them. What's the number going to be? 20? I mean, you could say, well, no, they never do 20 or anything like that. But that's what we were told once upon a time about 18.
Yeah.
Or 17.
Right.
How many years have we been at 17 games? You know?
5, maybe.
That's all it's been.
Yeah,
so
it's not been very long.
Usually the way they do it is they have at least the decency to hold off on getting to the next number. But they're rushing ahead. It sounds like, I don't know if it's going to be I don't think it's going to be as soon as next year. I don't believe, but that it's right around the corner that the league is saying, in effect, we're going to get it done. And we feel that strategically we're in good position to basically force the players into an 18th game. And again, I don't think we feel any remorse.
No.
I'll watch. You'll watch.
Yep.
Should we feel at least a little bit of guilt? I mean, it's a brutal game.
They'll get the second bye, Dan.
Yeah.
It won't just be one bye now. They'll probably do 2. Maybe they'll do 3 and do 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks.
What's the number at which Fat Cats get slaughtered? No, not that. What was the famous Mark Cuban line predicting that the NFL was fast approaching a point where they were getting so full of themselves that they were going to oversaturate?
Wasn't it? I haven't looked it up, but wasn't it pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered?
No, that was Glenn Mason said that.
Glenn Mason said fair is where you buy a pig in August.
That's true. Okay, you might be right. Well, whatever it was he said, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, does that number exist? Is there ever a point that the NFL could overplay its hand? You saw the numbers again over the weekend on these games. I mean, top 20, pretty much every week, or certainly every year. When we look back in the year, isn't it like 18 or 19 of the top 20 highest rated items over the course of the entire calendar year are games, football, NFL games?
Well, it's like over the top 100, it's like 97, and 3 of them are like 2 presidential debates, and then maybe one other big political thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if even they at some point, even the powers that be, believe that there's, the discretion will be the better form of valor, that there is a number that they secretly understand, even they understand we can't go past. We can't even practically consider going past it. What is it? Is it 19? Is it 20?
I bet it's 18.
Is it 18?
I bet it's 18.
Why?
Mostly because they just run out of, out of calendar to do it because they want to start after Labor Day, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to.
This is going to push you to maybe Super Bowl weekend on Super Bowl Sunday on President's Day weekend, which I think would be brilliant because the other thing we've all wanted is to have the Monday after the Super Bowl off, right?
Yeah.
We don't usually have that because we're gutty. We show up,
right.
But other jobs and schools are off on President's Day. So this would probably put them in that ballpark where they could theoretically say, and Super Bowl Sunday is going to be President's weekend. And then you get Monday off, and everybody's happy. And then we're done.
You can argue, as does Shane from Lafayette, Louisiana. Close circuit to Shane, did you get any snow? The 16 was the perfect number. You really didn't. You don't really need 17. 16 is a nice round number. And that you really don't. I could argue. I remember. I think the argument 14 was, which was the league schedule for I think decades. I think we were at 14. I don't remember when we went to 16. Do you?
I feel like it was the 70s.
Was it that? Go back that far?
Yeah, I thought it was. Right. We looked it up before.
Yeah. Pigs get fed, hogs go to slaughter. Was that it?
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what he said on March 23rd, 2014.
That's 10 years ago.
I'm just telling you.
How's that turned out?
Almost 11. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
How's that turned out?
He didn't see that one very clearly.
The only complaint I guess you could legitimately, link to his comments and say there's some truth to it is, remember there was a lot of muttering for a while about the Thursday night games. They're not very good. But I feel like we've gotten over that, whether it's because we've created, we're having better matchups. You don't hear that all that much anymore, do you?
Not really.
People say it's a tough week if you got to play Sunday, Thursday, but then, you know what? They get past it in like 4 minutes.
Yep, we move
4
on.
seconds, we move on. We go, yeah, okay, that's got to be kind of a rough week. By the way, what do you think of the Calcutta Clipper coming through? It's not like we agonize over it for longer than 30 seconds.
Well, mostly because you'd get that game out of the way, and then the last month of the season, there's games on Saturday, but by Sunday, everybody's already forgotten about the Thursday game. And then you go, who played Thursday?
Yeah.
And then Collinsworth comes on Sunday night, and you go, man, we only have another day of this. Then we got to wait again. That's how we're wired. The Vikings might like going back to 16. They only chose to play really 16 weeks this year.
I would like, wow, that's cheap.
I know,
but
I'm
accurate,
tired.
But accurate.
Yeah.
See, I'd be fine if the NFL season ended late February.
Me too.
Even early March.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I actually, because I do feel like there's a bit, part of the difficulty, at least in this part of the world, with the abyss is we associate the end of the football season with another 6 weeks of winter, basically, right?
Yeah.
It just feels like we're in a wasteland, especially if our teams aren't doing anything. And so I'd be fine if we went, because everybody's like, well, we're already into mid-February, whatever, early February.
Right.
I don't care about that.
We're talking about an extra 10 days or so if you add another week.
I'd even be willing to start a little later. I actually think I'd like that better. Start a little later, maybe 2 weeks after, maybe you start mid-September. And would that get us through February or close?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl is February 8th this year.
I don't like that feeling of even this. I have a palpable sense of dread for this weekend because this is the title round weekend, and then you're down to, then there's no ball until
next week.
For next week, and then you're down to one game.
I know.
And then that's it. Then it's over because I don't really count the Pro Bowl activities, even the flag football game.
Nobody does.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. The fan would love to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. The first keyword, what's today? Thursday, 3 o'clock hour, pay. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword pay.
How much do they pay you? Joe writes that the additional game is more feasible if the NFL allows expanded rosters from 53 to, say, 65. Are there enough players? If they were to do that, there probably are depth players. You'll find enough people,
and that'll be the compromise.
It'll have to be
more jobs.
That's true.
More guaranteed, spots on rosters.
So if you expand it to like from 53 to 75, could you go to like 22, 23, 24 games?
I think you probably could. Yeah, why not?
You know what the NFL needs? NFL needs an in-season tournament. That's what the NFL needs.
That's true.
Yeah.
The NFL Cup.
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah.
You win the Cup, and at least you got that going for you, even if you implode at the end of the regular season in the first round of the playoffs.
You name that after Belichick because he got the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah,
next best is probably Belly, right? So you do the Belichick Cup.
Well, for now, yeah.
Until KOC gets going.
Yeah, gets it moving. So we had Rocco in studio for an hour yesterday. Enjoyed that conversation. I know. I think you had to leave before it was done, or were you still here when it was done?
No, I walked out with Rocco.
Okay, that's right, You did. So there are a lot of people who loved the interview until his last answer. His last answer was an impassioned defense and belief in how good it is to work for the Pohlads. I have a theory on why, and so it caused a lot of eye rolling for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I kind of decided to let him go because people know my view on all of that, and he's doing it from an employee standpoint.
What are people expecting?
I don't know, but I think they weren't expecting he would because the question was about new ownership, and of course I, in my own perverse way, was hoping it would be not necessarily a chance for him to rip the Pohlads because I didn't expect that, but to say, well, this might be interesting. I had great respect for them, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Fresh look. But he chose to turn it back the other way. Is it possible that this was strategic on his part? That maybe this was his way of saying, well, as long as they are going to be the owners here, maybe if I say all these nice things, even though there's every reason to rip them, as even he kind of hinted when we did earlier talk about the $30 million cut in payroll, that maybe that They make it. They do a reversal and go, you know what? We're on our way out the door.
That's true.
So maybe we're not going to worry about it. Maybe that was his strategy to try to get an extra, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 million bucks in the coffers on the payroll. Who's to say? Rocco's no dummy.
No, he's
we didn't
always
even talk
playing
about
chess.
his SAT scores. You know about his SAT score?
I assume they were exemplary.
Is over 1,300 good?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yeah, 1,600 is the tops.
I think it was like 1,300 and change.
That's really good.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's outstanding.
He's no idiot.
No.
By any means. That's pretty easy to see. So maybe it was all strategic on his part. They didn't necessarily believe all of it, but he thought, well, maybe at the end of this, we'll get something out of it. Maybe I'll get an extra player and a half. I was encouraged to see there. I think there's a headline in the Star Tribune in the sports section that Twins front office officials believe that they have, I guess we're halfway through the off season, that they have more to do the rest of the way than they've already accomplished. And I said, awfully decent of you to acknowledge that. Because the rest of us, of course, hadn't noticed. But they at least said, yeah, we got a lot to do that we haven't really yet gotten to. There's more than half for us to do, even though there's only half the time left to do it.
Sounds like me at the end of a semester.
Pretty much.
Any of my colleges.
I wouldn't hold my breath. I guess there's some hot rumors about who's the catcher?
Vasquez. Yeah, I saw that last night.
For a pitcher?
I guess.
I always will bring more pitching in. You know me.
I'm with you.
There's never enough pitching.
It's true.
Is there? There just isn't.
We saw it last year. You can never have enough.
That's exactly it. Rocco can say how much he's enjoyed working with the Poets. My eye roll was his statement about investing in the team, especially last 2 years. Yes, yeah, he went deep. And that, as far as we could tell, there was no alteration of any sort, although we had a bunch of stuff delivered to all three of us relate with. I'll say I have the guy's name saved. Great guy out of Mankato.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah.
Who shows up? He hears me talking about doing the usual Cheech and Chong jokes with Rocco, and
which I think we're learning are very
well. They're tad overdone, oversimplified, and overcooked.
Yeah,
but we had it's all in good fun. I think he even understands that, and so Mankato guy basically delivers a box. It's still under my desk. I probably shouldn't say this because there's going to be other people who work here now are going to try to look at it.
Zach Halverson already grabbed most of it.
Probably did.
Yeah, you probably should check.
There's like some Munchie-style pretzels in there that has some THC.
Yep.
There was I'll tell you what, I almost wanted to keep it myself, but it was intended for Rocco. Rocco, I think, politely said, well, I'll give this to...
I think that's going to be a gift for somebody else. Dustin Morris ended up taking it. Yeah.
And Mankato guys does glass blowing work apparently.
Yes,
and it's an absolutely beautiful looking hookah. I mean, it's one of the prettiest hookahs I've ever seen. I was almost hoping neither of them would take it, so I would just put it on the mantle or something because it just looks like a really interesting piece of art.
It looks like good art.
There was all kinds of stuff in that regard.
There was stuff in there we didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, there's some stuff I haven't even opened yet.
We had no clue.
There's something labeled for you. There's another thing labeled for your wife. There's stuff labeled for me. I hope there's not anything labeled for Giovanzi in there. I'm not sure.
Got to get him hooked early.
Yeah, apparently. So
lifelong customer.
And there were some drinks, too, which I assume must be laced with some stuff. So it was an interesting delivery I was not expecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd caught wind that it was coming, and you discovered it, which was good.
Yeah, it was.
And my fingerprints are not on any of it.
I should have taken a photo of the hookah and put it on Twitter because it's beautiful.
Was there just one?
Well, only one of that size.
Oh.
There's a couple of things I didn't open. Maybe there's miniature hookahs.
I think there were multiple bongs in there.
Oh, that'd even be better.
I'm pretty sure.
What's the difference between a bong and a hookah? Is there?
Well, I think the bong is synonymous? What you would use for hookah. I thought hookah
pipe.
Yeah, hookah pipe. Yeah, but I thought hookah was like a product.
Oh. I don't think so.
I don't know.
Well, maybe it is.
I'm a novice.
I think Maui Wowie is the product you're thinking.
Maui Wowie is a product.
It's
absolutely.
A product. Yeah, exactly it. Did you handle the box of pot like you handle candles? What does that mean exactly?
Was that from fallness? Because that would mean that you steal all of them.
Hashtag greedy. That's probably fallness. You're probably right.
You missed the hashtag.
Well, no, I tried to distribute stuff to you, and you politely said,
I'm good.
You're good.
We don't need a bong in our house.
We know Glenn Mason wasn't going to take any of it because he's anti.
He didn't even come in the room until all of that was gone.
Yeah. We had the yearly discussion with Mace. He wants to come back on at least once a week all year, if possible more often, because he's got a lot more to talk about.
I bet he does.
And a lot, he's capable of talking about it. Here's what I, in all seriousness, suggested. I said, what you should do is you should guest host the program. And I think he's been in this chair before with you, has he not? But you were leading the show, or was it with somebody else?
I don't know.
Because he remembers being here and firing off the sounders.
Yeah.
So
I think you might have been somewhere.
Maybe that's
might
what
have been
it was.
during the holidays.
Okay.
You might have been in Chicago or something.
I honestly think that's what he should do. He should try to see if he could. I mean, Glenn Mason, because I said immediately, think of the people you'd have access to, and I said, you have to start with
Nick Saban.
your guy Nick Saban.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. I mean, he knows everybody.
He does.
And if he worked ahead, he could get anybody. So that I think is a better option than trying to stomach the notion of us killing each other, year round.
Well, we can't afford him year round.
Well, that's the other thing I said to him. I said, will you do it the rest of the year free? Well, no.
Yeah.
And I said, well, then you got to stop complaining because there's no more money for you.
No, money runs out.
Unless there's more sponsors out there. Yeah. Other than above and beyond our good friends at Kerry Limo.
If Kerry Limo wants to go yearly and pay him yearly, we'll think about it.
Sean Salisbury around the corner. If you have questions for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. I'm pretty sure he was on the Dan Patrick show today. He often is, I know that, and I sadly must admit he definitely gets paid, better compensated for his appearances on that show than he does ours, which of course doesn't mean we don't appreciate his appearances. Sean Salisbury is kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. Were you on with Patrick today?
I sure was.
That's what I thought.
Thank you, bud.
We
had a good time.
Yeah, you do. You got a good vibe with him.
Yep.
Yeah,
I like going on guys that have the name Dan. So there you go.
Apparently so. Well, let's get caught up because there's a lot to cover, but I want to go way back because I don't think on air we've chatted since the Vikings season comes to quite a crash. Well, they lose the last game in the regular season, and then they, I think, play frankly even less competitively against the Rams. So, what do you think happened as you look back on it? What did you see? What stood out to you?
Well, this is going to sound like too simple, simple of an answer. They picked bad times to play two good teams and two pressure single elimination times and get outplayed immensely. Going back over it, thinking about, all the way back to Detroit and just the overview. Offensively, they didn't feel competitive in either game, whether that's they weren't comfortable with the game plan. Now, one thing that, Dan, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but as we all do, every now and again, the other guy just better than you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we try to break it down to, we didn't get third down conversions, threw the ball to the other team, red zone conversions, all that. Sometimes the game plan, and I'm talking about coaches get out-coached, out-executed, outsmarted. Some get a little too cute, and it can be anywhere in the league. They played, and they could not afford to go on the road in either of those games and play poor football, and they did. And so, and a lot of that, and obviously Sam was a part of it. You think about how quickly a phenomenal season with a coach who made a huge impact on a quarterback who played more like what people thought, and I've said that a while, but the judgment's going to come from the two single elimination. When I say single elimination, the chance you had to play at home, which obviously mattered now as he looks back, it would have been huge. And then to go and be very non-competitive and play poor football from his position. I love him. All he did was opened up an opportunity for them to doubt him now and to say, well, do we go with McCarthy when he's really still a rookie? Do we move forward and offer Sam? He's not going to get the huge money anywhere. Now it got to the point where you opened up the doubt questions of you've created some doubt in their mind that says, all right, do we even want to go franchise tag? Or do we want to say, hey, we'll give you 2 years for $30 million, a $5 million a year increase, come in and compete, and then you're not killed over salary. You know what I'm saying? You're still with the rookie salary for McCarthy. You're still not devastated if all of a sudden Darnold plays like he did the last 2 games as a starter and beats McCarthy out, or if he plays like he did with a bunch of incentives, then he'll have another chance to prove it, which we expected him to. But now I don't even know if they put the franchise on him because we heard the post-game press conferences. Sam didn't play well, and Dan, regardless of all the other things we go through that I'm sure you've covered ad nauseum on your show, as I have on mine about the Vikings too, because I got a bunch of fans here in Texas, and it's playoff football. is in playoff football, if you turn it over, if you are not good in the red zone, if the quarterback plays poorly, and if you're physically manhandled, you don't win. You just don't win. And so those things happen, and offensively, they did not show up. They did not for all around, but it always starts with the quarterback. It always does. And having been a part of some good stuff and having been a part of a team that gets beat or starting and knowing it's on you, it's not a good feeling. And it diminishes, unfortunately, in some eyes, takes away all the other 16, 17 games that he played well at, because those two pressure games, people are now going to ask, is that him? Is the regular season guy, not counting the Detroit game, him? Or is it somewhere in between? So all Sam did was create doubt, and he's going to have now more to prove. So I just thought, again, you can't play average against Detroit, and you can't play average against the Rams, and you can't do it on the road. And you sure as hell can't play below average, which he did and they did. And it's always going to start head coach and quarterback, and he deserves criticism. He didn't look comfortable, which was odd to me. I understood the Detroit game. Things happen. Somebody beat you. You're in their building. I get it. And they were good all year long. But hell, if he'd have gone and played really good against the Rams, we'd have kind of we'd have forgotten about it, and they wouldn't have doubted. They say, who doesn't have a bad game? But now the doubt has been created where it's 2. So is he the guy to get you to February is what they're asking, or are they going to throw their cards on a rookie who's coming off an injury, didn't take a snap? So I was disappointed. I didn't expect back-to-back offensive showings from what I saw a year, that they were going to show up and get, quite frankly, bullied in both games, and they did. Yeah,
that's a great analysis. And as I said, I don't think it was the fact that they lost both those games, but I think it's the thoroughness with which they were beaten.
That's what the optics were awful.
They're very, very awful. Yeah. So let me go a little bit deeper, because I'm very curious to get your view on this, and I don't want to overthink it, because he wasn't accurate. Obviously, the protection was not very good, especially the second week. Now, you could argue about, all right, you're holding on to the ball too long, but in the back of my mind, I feel there's still a correction, an adjustment, that this head coach, as good as he's been, and he just got the contract extension and they had to do it, has been that there's still a problem with him in that when I look at some of the other offenses that are even passing offenses, I think I see quick answers, short throws, routes that are shortened a bit, and a lot of good options for the QB, even if it's a team that generally, we want to throw the ball downfield, but they say, we don't care. We'll if you're going to send people at us, we'll take the 4-yarder. We'll take 2nd and 6, or we'll take 4 becoming 7, whatever. And the head coach insisted after the Rams game that, no, we had those, but the Rams took them away. And I'm not sure I'm convinced of that I think that's still something I'd like to see greater adjustments made to give a Darnold, when he's shaky, maybe a chance to get into a bit more succession. Am I overthinking this, or do you believe there's something to that?
I think there is, and I think both of me and you agree that Kevin O'Connell's a good football coach.
Yes.
And and in truth, Dan, he's still in the infancy of his head coaching career, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, how many times has he been in the playoffs as a head coach?
This will be second.
There you go.
That's it.
And so it's not a lot, like the quarterback or like somebody else. It's not a huge, body of work for him. And make no mistake about it, the pressure doesn't just hit players. Pressure hits coaches. They either get into the comfort zone or they excel like a player, right? The blood pressure goes up or down. They go with and Dan, you've covered it for so long, and in watching it, well, like this game this week, just use it as an example. It'll be a parallel. Washington's playing the 3rd time against Philly, right? Mm-hmm. And we were talking on my show, and what happens is you get lulled. It's the 3rd time, there's familiarity. So you say, okay, locked into that. Do we have to study as much? As a player, you're starting to think, I know who they are. Well, they're going to make adjustments. But in truth, both of these teams going into this, it's not going to be the okey-doke plays and the double reverse pass that wins it. It's going to be the execution on the simplistic stuff. It just is. 85% of it's going to be the coordinators at this stage are going to do what they do with a few adjustments, because they, too, are going to go back to what they lean on. You think the Philadelphia is going away from Barkley if they take him away the first 3 series? If they do, they're going to lose the game. They're going to stick with what they do with some adjustments, but the base of what they do. And sometimes if this pressure hits, the decibel levels in the building go up, your blood pressure goes up, and you start to say, well, get a little cute. We saw Ben Johnson do it in the playoffs, so they got beat.
Yeah,
he had double reverse pass down heading into the red zone. He got cute. Now he's got a job, and it was great. But those were usually used at a time when you knew they'd work and they were up 2 touchdowns to put the foot on the throat. He used it at a pressure time, and quite frankly, it was a horrible decision by him.
Right.
So applying that to the Vikings, I do think, listen, they should never be, and I am with you 100%. The worst thing a quarterback can do and an offense can do when you are reeling and you're borrowing trouble and you're seeing things that, quite frankly, as quarterbacks, you invent when you're getting hit.
Sure.
I saw it. You start to get hit before you know it. You start to see stuff that, quite frankly, is not there. And then all of a sudden, the next guy, it becomes a cumulative effect, and that snowball gets rolling. You should never. And that happened. Oh, another sack and another sack. And now it's 4 sacks, and now it's up to 8. And then all of a sudden, it's like, damn, you start scrambling around trying to find something. And by that time, you're getting your ass kicked so bad, you don't even know if you can throw it in the ocean if you're standing in a boat, right?
Right.
And you just by dropping it. So, and when Kevin said they took it away, I'm sure on tape they did take some of it away. But like in the run game, am I supposed to disregard it? They're kicking our ass up front. Am I supposed to disregard the run game because they embarrassed us on 2 3-and-out series? You can't. That's part of the patience. Survival is the playoffs. It's not pretty.
Great point.
The Chiefs survived against the Texans last week, and they got 8 sacks. They dominated special teams. They couldn't cover Kelsey, the Texans. And yet, in the stat line, the Texans beat the Chiefs up and down the field.
No question.
But in situational football, maybe that's it. The situational football that the Chiefs are better than anybody at the world at. It doesn't look pretty, but on 3rd and 4, they get 5. Yep. On 4th and 1, they get the first down, or they don't miss the field goal. So in this case, I actually, in watching that, I felt like even though you have your game plan in, sometimes you just got to throw it in the motor pool and crap can it, and go back to it and get back to what you should never be able to stop consistently, at least hits on the quarterback. If my quarterback's taking hits in the quick game, like you said, curl flat, balls out, a slant flat, balls out, a quick shallow cross, the bubble screen. If I'm getting hammered on that and everything's got to be pushing the ball intermediate down the field and hold it, then I'm either not teaching it well or we have zero way to get to plan B. You can't just have plan A in the postseason.
Yeah,
there's got to be a plan B, and I can always get to plan A. I felt in that game, and I love Kevin O'Connell. I think he was great for Sam's career, and I think he's going to be special and deserved an extension. But I do know this, that when the temperature goes up and you're leaning on plan A a little too much, it gets to the point where it's too late to get to B. I felt like they didn't have plan B in the game. That it was either, here's what we're going by, and if they took away what Kevin said, they did fine. But then I've got to manipulate my formations and motions and personnel groupings to combat what you've done to take it away, whether that's a whole shot that's part of the quick game. But you don't compound the mistake by saying, well, they took away the quick game, so now it's 3rd and 9. Let me drop back and take a 5-step and a hitch and hold it and hope Jefferson wins on the dig route while my quarterback's getting hit. And half of those were good coverage and play calling or not execution. And the other half, which is borrowing the trouble as a quarterback, the first one's not open. You're hitched a second time. It's like, I got to do something with it. Next thing you know, Sam's head's down. He's running into sacks as opposed to just boom, boom, boom. And then you've got to trust that your quarterback in the quick game, if one's covered, that they're going to make the right decision. I felt like plan A was the only plan in the game. And then I think they got to the point that they felt like they were drowning. And then it just compounds the mistakes. That's how ugly it looked to me. And in truth, we've seen it. Kyle Shanahan himself, who's Kevin's part of that, he's been through it a lot in postseason. And you start to reel, and then all of a sudden that pressure starts to mount, and you can't find plan B. Yep. It felt to me plan A was exhausted, and that they allowed a couple bad series to disrupt them from, okay, let me just make a little change up here. The best coaches and teams in the world survive and adjust on plan A and plan B.
Could not agree more. Sean Salisbury, kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. You mentioned the term bullied a little bit, and I want to go a little deeper on that too, because I look at the team, most of the teams left, and I say they all in different ways have, and I don't know if you want to say physicality, a little bully in them, largely either because they've got a good running game, a good to very good offensive line, or even, and I say running game, a quarterback who they don't mind running the ball. If they're healthy, running the ball for 7 yards here, 6 yards there. And look, your personnel is your personnel, and the Vikings are built differently. But I do think, again, to your point, this time of year, it does become a little bit of a survival game. And that is the ability to say, okay, on 3rd and 4, let's get the 4.5 yards. And I don't know how you do that because, again, Jefferson is the guy, and you got to build a lot of it around him. But look, as much as I love the Aaron Jones move, and he was very good for much of the season, had good numbers, their overall rushing numbers as a team, not good again. Slightly better than the last couple years, but still not great. And Sean, look at the teams left. You see, again, that some of them are very capable of throwing, but they have a component of physicality and bully to them in the ground game as well.
There is no question. And at the line of scrimmage, nasty. Yes. Nasty and bully. Bully's a word because, listen, at this time, the survival thing kicks in too. And you mentioned these 4 teams, and we talk about Jefferson. Well, guess what? I've got to be creative enough that I can't just line him up outside and say, you go do this, we'll get you the ball. I may have to run him in motion out of the backfield and throw him a swing route like I would Aaron Jones and get him in space, get the ball in his hand. That's you know who's the best in the world at doing stuff like that? Is Andy Reid.
Yes, he is.
And Andy Reid, Kelsey's not working here. Let's throw him a shovel pass. He can't get off. Houston made it easy. I still don't understand, as I digress, why you give him a free run off the line of scrimmage, why you're not mauling him at the line of scrimmage. I don't get it. And what's the to tune? Letting Kelsey play in space is letting Tiger Woods putt to a manhole when he's number one 683 weeks in a row, right? Come on now. At least let's do something that takes him off his mark. And you're right with these 4. Dan, all this years, and you start to look at it, and I say, okay, finesse is great. You got to have a quarterback. You do. You got at least making plays in situation football at the right time, right? Even if his statistics, Hurts' statistics aren't gaudy. Throwing the ball, he's averaged 18 touchdowns, less than 3,000 yards. But the extension of their run game is him on the RPO pulling and carrying it 14 times. Okay? And that adds to the physical. Also adds to your bandwidth that you can't just defend the inside zone with Barkley, because if you do, Hurts will rush for 110.
That's it.
Allen will. Mahomes in an odd way. Mahomes won't look pretty, but his will be on off-schedule pump fakes and all that. And then you take a look at the other team. Jaden Daniels will rush for 120 at the blink of an eye. The dual threat, the ability. But in order to do that, you must dominate the line of scrimmage and commit to the run game and not betray it by leaving it. And then whether that's Barkley or the quarterback, whether that's Allen or Cook, whether that's Mahomes or the backfield of the two-headed with Kareem Hunt and the big Pacheco banger who's a hammer, right?
Yeah, that's
and
it.
Then you go to Washington, they'll run it, they'll throw screens, and Jaden Daniels makes you, I can't pinch, I can't commit to all the inside stuff because that dude rushed for almost 900 yards this year. So all 4 of them have the elephant of running it. And you can't just finesse people running the football because they'll play in your backfield. You saw University of Texas try to do that against Ohio State by running sideways in the red zone at the 1.
Yeah.
And what happened? Ball game over. Next one, drop back to pass. Get out of your comfort zone. Boom, strip sack, fumble, game over. Because they didn't do what they've done all year. Play downhill, 4 handoffs inside there. And if we can't score from a foot, we suck anyway. And it's the same thing here. Yeah. And I was a little disappointed in the domination of the run game, especially as well as the Vikings threw it this year. I did expect a little more physicality. But I'm just telling you, Dan, with that survival, part of that survival is it's going to be ugly. You're going to be embarrassed. They're going to win on a couple series, but we got to find a way. I don't know how we're going to get to the run. It may be pull. It may be read option. It may be outside zone. It may be stretch bootleg. But you have got to commit to this. The team that wins this championship, and it's usually the case all the time, is a team that did not turn it over much, if at all, the quarterback who outplayed the other guy, and who dominated, who was more physical. The finesse stuff, put it this way, we could have taken our Vikings teams, we had such a good offensive line, and I'll just use me, an average quarterback at the time. Think about this, that I can always serve, like in baseball, Dan, defense travels. You're going to be in every game. If defense, and then you just got to make a few situational plays in baseball. If you can get pitching in baseball and defense, you're going to hang around. Then the clutch hit situation in basketball. If you'll defend and Michael Jordan shutting you off, all that offense stuff. Michael Jordan could have been the defensive player of the year 15 years in a row in basketball. In football, it travels. Finesse, you run into inclement weather. Give me great physicality at the line of scrimmage in a run game and a quarterback who doesn't kill me. I'll be in every game. Give me perimeter people that are great, but an offensive line that can't block anybody in a run game that's suspect as hell because you're soft. You kind of pillow fight them. You have zero shot at winning a title, even if you got perimeter people that are running all over the place. I'm at least in every game. Now, you give me a run game that's physical and an offensive line that is nasty and going to ear hole if you're standing around a pile and a playmaking quarterback. Don't all four of these teams have similar stuff? The Chiefs use the run game, the pass game as an extension of the run. Philadelphia is going to run it with the best all-around back in the league this year. Jaden Daniels. It doesn't matter who the guy is, yep. Josh Allen or Cook. It matters what you're doing to get to them to give them a chance to do it. But all four quarterbacks have played well in pressure situations, some better than others. They all will run it or use the run as an extent of the pass as extension of the run. And all four quarterbacks to date have had Mahomes as Mahomes. Allen's been an MVP all year. Hurts has utilized it right. He survived it, doing it different ways. And Jaden Daniels has been spectacular, and we know Josh Allen. So you've got them all to do something different. But you will not win a championship finessing people to death or holding the ball or doing that. If you're not willing to go helmet to helmet at the line of scrimmage and run the football and deal with 2 yards and then deal with 2 more yards, at least I'm 3rd and 6. I can still run it from the gun. Yeah, I don't know many teams in any way, shape, or form. Ohio State's got all those perimeter people. You know how they won the championship? They dominated you at the line of scrimmage. The quarterback was accurate. He was against Notre Dame.
That's true. Yeah.
He just was. Even though Notre Dame ran the ball well, they didn't make the situational plays, and they couldn't defensively get off the field because Ohio State was more physical. Physical beats finesse in most sports. I know you watch hockey every day. Dan, when you get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, a goaltender that stands on his head and a defense that knocks the piss out of you, they're going to have a chance. Then, if you got Connor McDavid, guess what? Then we get a hat trick, and then all's golden. All four of these teams have similar elements. They just get to it a different way.
Is there a number at which you would recommend the Vikings do bring back Darnold, or do you believe it was nice, it was fun, but somebody's going to offer him good money, and let's go ahead and start the clock on JJ with perhaps Daniel Jones in that same role as the buffer until McCarthy is ready to go? What do you think?
I think you have to for sure have one of those guys, right? Jones or Darnold. I just do. It's not like the rookie watched all. I mean, he watched, but I didn't even get a snap at him. As much as I loved McCarthy in college, and as I think it was a great pick by them, Dan, we still don't know, do we?
No, we don't.
I mean, do we? We don't, right? We don't know. It's such a hard position to evaluate. Smart, big. Like I told you, I think he's going to throw the ball better at the NFL level and more often with Kevin, and it'll be great for him. But why would I can't cut off my nose to spite my face. We drafted him. We're going to force feed him. When every time people are praying for patience. Listen, Darnold, to me, put up a good enough season for me to warrant bringing him back. It's just now, after the last 2 games, not going to be at the $40 million range for a franchise tag. You may not even want to go there with 1 year. Yeah. I would right now, and I told you I was going to judge it every week. And the last 2 pressure games, Sam left it open for us to wonder. So I still think he put up good football. You saw how the players rally around him and like him in the locker room. He didn't. He's never blamed anybody else. Why not go and offer him a 2-year deal? Mm-hmm. And let's just say it's $18 million a year. For the hell of it, right? You're double his salary. Right. $10 million last year. Double his salary the next 2 years. And load it with incentives. Now because the last 2 games, Sam's got to compete. Make JJ show that he's ready health-wise and compete. If he's not, it may be 2 games, it may be 10 games like Penix with Cousins. You're not going to be in salary cap hell with it. You still got a viable backup. Even if he goes to the bench and Darnold gets beat out, are you really strapped that much? We got backups making 10. I mean, are you really crushed that much?
No, you're not.
At least you're not. And now, if all of a sudden you offer him 2 years at $30 million or $36 million, and the Tennessee Titans or somebody comes in and says, no, we're going to pay you 2 years at 60, then he'll leave and it's problem solved. Then you deal with Daniel Jones and that. I do think you need to create competition, but to turn it over to a rookie automatically and just say, forget it, we'll just have and Daniel Jones leaves and Darnold leaves. I think he did enough. The fact when I read people, he's a hack, the guy sucks. Come on now. He played badly at the wrong time, and it was bad, and it was pressure-filled, and he didn't answer that call. But I think he's shown us enough that, and I don't think he'd be bothered if he said come back and compete. And I actually, Dan, after the last 2 games, I don't think anybody's going to come in and offer him. Now, there's going to be people that fall in love with him. I don't think somebody's going to come and offer him 3 years at $90 million.
I'd be shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that. Now, had he played well in one of them? Maybe. Had he played well in both of them, the
Definitely.
Vikings wouldn't even be considering
Right.
it. So I think that the franchise now is in question for sure, but I think you could get him at a lesser salary. He's comfortable. He reared his head as a good player. So I'm sure that why would he want to start all over and go to a crappy-ass team that needs a quarterback and be right back where he started? He's got a good team. If he'll take a little less and prove it again one more year and let McCarthy beat him out, what's the big deal? And then you don't lose anything. And then you have, if McCarthy's struggling, I got a guy to go to that in game 8 can go win me 3 in a row if he's got an ankle injury. I just think it'd be wise to do everything you could without mortgaging your future to sign him, make him prove it again, let him compete. Competition's a good thing. I don't think McCarthy'd back down. And why guarantee either one of them a starting position? It's not necessary. You're not in that position. And we got to find out if McCarthy's a franchise guy and who Darnold is. Is he regular season Darnold, last 2 games Darnold, or somewhere in between? And $18 million, $15 million a year? I don't think that's bad. And I know from my experience, when I feel comfortable with somebody or in a situation, I'm not just going to bolt for an extra $1 million because you may be out of the league in 3 years if you play poorly for 3 more straight years. I just think it was a good season. It didn't end the way they wanted to. I think that Sam Darnold, a competition, you're going to have that veteran, and why not him? Because he's not going to disrupt it. That's not his personality, no matter what happens.
Very sensible strategy, I think. I hope they consider it. In fact, real quick as we wrap up here, I'm sure this was a big topic down your way, Houston way. What's the answer when it comes to the proper protection of the quarterbacks and the sort of cutesy pie exploitation of the rules that are in place by Mahomes that I think sometimes really does go over the top and makes it almost a no-win situation for defensive players? How do you thread the needle, man? Is there a rules change that needs to be made, an interpretation that needs to be made? Because I didn't like what I saw again last week. I really didn't. And I think Mahomes even acknowledged, well, in the one where I faked like I was getting hit out of bounds, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I don't like I'm not saying that the Houston would have won the game, but those are pretty key plays. I don't like the way it looks. And if you're going to have more running quarterbacks, there's a part of me that says, as much as we got to protect them because they're the big names, that there has to be an ability for defensive players to hold them accountable a little bit more. How do we thread the needle on this?
Yes, and listen, I understand they're stars, but it still doesn't mean that I got to favor them. The backup quarterback like a little protection too, right? It can't just be the stars extra protection. Right. I understand the superstar talk, but that doesn't mean that's not a rule. I don't like unwritten rules. We get them all in baseball. Screw your unwritten rule. The rule, listen, if it's goaltending in basketball, it's goaltending, right? Mm-hmm. An offensive foul is an offensive foul. And I know when Tony Gwynn took a pitch, the umpire would err on the side of, well, that's Gwynn. He knows the strike zone more than I do. I'll call a ball. Well, that still doesn't warrant the legalities of a hitter causing a game. Listen, Texans fans want to say and it did play a part of it in the game against Kansas City. But make no mistake about it. There's nobody better at situational football. They got 8 sacks on Mahomes. Their special teams got dominated, and they couldn't cover Kelsey, as I mentioned. Yeah. That's why you lost. Right. Now, it's heightened and hypersensitive because, phantom penalties, and Mahomes seems to get them. Listen, you number one got to gear up at least 2 times a game. They're going to make a call with him that's going to overprotect him. That's just the fact. So you almost do, for a player or 2 or a series of 2, got to deal with 12 guys. Okay, I get it. But that's not, I don't want to diminish Kansas City. That's not how Andy and they win because they're just better than everybody else at the right time. Yeah. They just are. That just adds to it. They don't need any help. Give that help to other people. How you fix it, Dan? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen with Mahomes, and the guy's a phenomenal player. He's the best in the world at what he does right now, is that he's going to pull that cutesy stuff at the sideline. The number one way you prevent the cutesy stuff is legally. Yes. You hit him, and you put his doggone rib cage through the other side, and he ends up 4 rows up. That'll stop it. On a legal hit, inbounds, that will stop it, and I promise you. But on the other side of it, the rule itself, what I don't want, Dan, is for them to go in there, which scares me, that they're going to protect quarterbacks more. They're just going to bring everybody up to Mahomes status. We don't need that. I am all for football's rough, it's physical, and it's violent. We can get away from the helmet hits, all that. But when you decide, with all the dual threat quarterbacks we have now that are dominating this game at the top level, these guys are better than sometimes. The best running back in Washington right now is Jaden Daniels. So when Mahomes or these guys break the pocket, why can't they do what we did when we were in the 7th grade? You're a football player. You're just going to have to learn how to slide in pocket areas. I would love them to do away with the feet first slide, because even when they slide feet first, if a guy's going, the quarterback takes protection any way, shape, or form out of his own hands. He's now a wild target. Maybe we got to practice more on when to get down, when to get out of bounds. And I don't know if you can add a flop rule to it like you do in the NBA, but the truth of the matter is, the more rules we've added over the years from the time I played to now, the more trouble we've had monitoring it. It really is. So we don't need any more protection. We're already at the fringe of losing integrity for the game on the court. We just are. The defense has zero shot. The defense has no shot. And this is coming from a quarterback, and most would tell you the same thing that played the position in the league, that we overdo it. And Mahomes gets the extra superstar treatment. The best way to do it is when they leave the pocket while they're in play, they're just like a running back or wide receiver. Because now it's double whammy. Josh Allen's bigger and faster and better than a lot of running backs.
Yes.
You did the advantage they gain. Once you decide and make the decision to leave that pocket, then the decision is on you to learn how to be judicious in who you take on and how you do it. Then the defense at least has an extra chance. We're not giving them an extra advantage to the offense, and the referees need to grow a set and start calling it like they want to. But we all know that the Kansas City Chiefs people like watching them. And Mahomes is going to continue to get the calls until referees also get, maybe a mandate from them saying, you no longer have to protect 15 like you do number 8 or 7 somewhere else.
Hey, by the way, do you agree at all with Chris Sims that Jackson merits a little bit more responsibility on the Andrews drop than was originally suggested, or do you put all of that on a sure-handed, receiver who just dropped the ball at the worst possible time?
Yeah, I go back and think of Jackie Smith and that. Remember that one? Oh,
God.
And Jackie was a hell of a player, Dan.
Yes.
And that's what people remember him by. Say, well, what about all the great stuff Jackie did? But that's Billy Buckner, right?
Yeah, through the legs. Right?
Yeah, crazy. With this, here's what I think. I went back and watched it 30 times, the throw. The perfect throw, the right throw for an accurate, hits him on the front shoulder. Yes, he had to stop a little bit, but I've always believed this, and maybe because I'm spoiled with Largent and Chris Carter and Jordan, 2 hands anywhere near in that body, they're catching it. But he could have made it easier on the run move. The ball was, now listen, you got to catch it. It's 85. The most of it's on Mark. And this is going to crush him because the series before he laid it on the ground. He never fumbles. He never fumbles and the ball doesn't drop. And in 2 series, it completely changed the course of how people think about him. The idiots that are giving death threats, right? It's just nuts. Yeah. But he could have. While the guy's got to catch it, even if you're an average player, you have to catch that. But was the ball perfectly thrown? The answer to that is absolutely not.
We went way too long, and I can't tell you again what.
I apologize for keeping you so long.
No, are you kidding me?
No,
Gargi and I love it, and we appreciate another terrific year. My hope is if something like ridiculous comes up, maybe I'll text you and see if we can squeeze you in. But you've done so great about regular appearances, and the response once again this year has been wonderful, and we really do appreciate you taking the time, because you do not have to do it at this point. You do not need it. And so we very much appreciate the contribution.
I love that city and that team, and I love the fans. I love being on with you and Guardsy. I do it because I want to, and I get a lot out of it. I love the passion that we have, and you are so you know how to bring it out in me. So you don't ever have to. I mean, I appreciate the thanks, but I'll do it. Sam, whenever you need me, if it's keep doing it, just holler at me, let me know, and I'll be happy to come on. The thanks is appreciated. But I get as much out of it as you do, so I'm honored. And I always am to come on in a place that I love and a show that I love being on.
Awesome, man. We'll be in touch as always. Thanks, Sean.
I'm here, brother. Thank you.
Sean Salisbury on a roll again today. And, I've gotten, I think, pretty good at clock management. Today, I mangled it, but I don't care, because when Sean gets going, I want to keep listening.